from the first event of the weekend. It's the women's 1,500-meter prelims, and there are 2 heats of this, 10 athletes in the first heat, 9 in the second, and we are underway. And Gab, this was one of your primo events in college.
The 1500.
When you know you've got to run this again tomorrow, potentially, what's your strategy in a race like this today on Preliminary Friday?
Yeah, you don't want to coast too much, but you want to get out and put yourself in position to hang so that you can get to the finals, So I don't think anybody's out here to drill themselves into the ground, obviously, but you got to be assertive enough because you want to make that final. So you definitely don't want to fluff off, especially in the first couple laps here.
Allie Fordyce of Georgetown, wearing 9 on her chest, is the front runner as they come through 300 meters in about 55 seconds. She has the second best time in the field this season. And the 2019 champ, Josette Norris, has graduated, so the top spot is open after a year and a half of not competing in a Big East championship. And Fordyce looking very comfortable at the front of the pack. Fordyce second in the Big East, only to Sammy Corman of Georgetown, who is not running in the 1,500-meter field this year. And you see that so often in the distance events in the Big East Conference because of how competitive it is. Athletes and coaches choosing not to race in certain events and choosing other ones that they feel more strongly about, particularly as they prepare for the NCAA postseason.
Right. Sometimes it's just all about points and who you want where, and it's that little strategy game that coaches are playing to put themselves in a good position.
So it's Fordyce and Smith running well towards the front. Two preliminary heats, the top 4 from each heat, plus the next 4 best times. And so if you're not in the top 4 in the first heat, there's still lots of reason to compete hard to the line because you never know. You could get one of those back-end 4 after the second heat completes.
Oh, yes. See, this is where we're going to start to see a little bit of separation or coming up around this lap.
I feel like so often, too, in the 1,500, especially, maybe more so than the 5K and the 10K, we see a lot of sit and kick and strategy in this particular event.
I'll tell you what, I was a sit-and kicker. 100. I never led a single race. I was like, I'm gonna hang and wait for that final
That
part.
never gave you some butterflies in the pit of your stomach?
I will tell you this. My senior year, I did end up leading the 15. I made a move a little early, and the whole rest of the 2 laps, I was worried. I was like, I never do this. I'm never doing that again.
Because you've got someone on your back then.
Yeah. That's why I never did it before.
Coming into the bell lap here, the first heat of the women's 1,500-meter prelims. And it's still Fordyce at the front, but she does have Maggie Smith of Villanova on her hip on the outside.
Yeah, that's a nice, tight group here, so.
You almost wonder at what point Fordyce might try to kick away from the rest of the field and guarantee her spot in the final tomorrow, but there is a large group still hanging together as we get into the final 200 meters. Fordyce, Smith, Pena of Butler has slid into 3rd place. And now coming on the outside of Providence is Tessa Hunt. And now Hunt trying to make a move as they come into the final 100 meters. Hunt and Fordyce battling. Here comes Pena of Butler now through the middle. It's Chloe Gonzalez of Georgetown, and it's 2 Hoyas going 1-2 in preliminary number 1. What a race from Fordyce, partner leading from wire to wire.
That was an incredible show for her because, I mean, like I said, going out first, you got to be confident in that approach, and I think she wanted that control and knowing that she can you know, she knows her body better than anybody else. So to mentally go out like that and hang on and have her teammate to support her is good news for them.
So there's your top four: Fordyce, Gonzalez, Hunt, and Pena. And now Smith, Jones, Fisher, and Cushing will have to wait for the completion of the second prelim to see about their fate in the final on Saturday. Fordyce is through as the top seed out of heat number 1. And now she'll wait to see where she'll start on the line tomorrow afternoon. This is always the fun part, right? If you didn't run in the top 4, now you get to sit and wait.
Oh, the anxiety.
After watching the first heat, if you're running in the second heat, do you pay attention to times, or do you just still completely focus on your own race tactics?
You know what? It's good for me to know the time.
Yeah.
So that I know, okay, so about, because then you can gauge a little bit. All right, how assertive were they going out?
Sure.
And then maybe you're going to try to duplicate that so that nobody's, like, killing them. You know, if they went out speedy fast, you're like, all right, I got to step it up now to make it to that final. So, you know, they were about middle of the way there, slower as anticipated. So the second heat might emulate that just the same.
434 was the final spot in the top 4 finishers from heat number 1. And all the competitors from heat number 1 who didn't finish in the top 4, they're hanging out on the infield right now to watch heat number 2, which features Anna Helwig of Villanova, who has the top time in the field at 4:19.59 this season. And interestingly, Gab, 3 of the top 5 performers in the Big East this season are not running in the 1,500 meters at these championships. They've opted to run in more lengthier distance events like the 5K, some in the 3K steeple. So that's opened up the field a little bit for some players who may not have been looking or in the hunt for a podium finish.
Yeah, that certainly opens it up and gives some people a little bit of hope there and confidence headed into this.
Helwig certainly is the front runner in this group, but she is not running towards the front right now. That's Martha Mcdonald of Georgetown, one of the teammates of Allie Fordyce, who won heat number 1. And right now, Helwig is running on the inside rail with 3 on her leg. How do you feel about that position?
I'm going to want to get out of there eventually. Come on. I know it's early, but that's never a comfortable place to be. We're going to want to scooch out of there.
This
shortly.
Early in the race, how do you start to think about getting out of that spot?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to move to the outside a little bit. There's no hustle right now, obviously, but you definitely don't want to. I wouldn't get comfortable there for too much longer. That's
you weren't
for
a
sure.
fan of running on the rail.
No. Things can happen. Ankles are over there. It's getting crowded.
So she is still tucked into the pack. All 9 athletes running together here. 2 laps left in the women's 1,500 meter second prelim, and still at the front is Martha Mcdonald of Georgetown, who's run 4:39 this year. She'll need to run faster than that if she's not in the top 4 in order to make the final tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes you see people get lucky on the inside. I've seen it before, but if you're in a championship situation, usually people are aggressive enough where you don't get lucky, so you're going to want to squeeze out of there.
It's so interesting how...
Now she's making her move outside.
It's so interesting how in championship events, tactics become the topic of conversation amongst distance runners.
Yeah, because a lot of the talent is comparable. Everybody's worked hard. So little things like positioning matter so much more on this stage.
Not to mention the fact that it's, especially on day 1, not necessarily about going out and running your fastest time. Many of these athletes have already qualified for the prelims.
Right.
So now it's about how do I get to the final tomorrow and then win for my team.
That's the fun part about championships. You don't really have to kill yourself. You just got to be smart.
Right. Be a good racer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the final 400 meters, all 9 athletes still in it. It's the bell lap of Heat 2 of the women's 1,500-meter prelim. 4 spots in the final up for grabs in the top 4, and then the next 4 fastest times. And now making a move from the inside rail early is Anna Helwig. She wears 3 on her chest. Rachel Vick of Connecticut is also right there at the front. And there goes Helwig. Helwig running really well for Villanova. But UConn's Jenna Zdanowicz is right there behind her. And now here comes Butler's Catherine Olson. Again, the top 4 finishers from each heat automatically into the final tomorrow. And after a large clump of athletes sticking together for the first, I'd say 1,100 meters, really spreading out, the final 4 pretty much wrapped up. And now it's about deciding the next 4 fastest times out of both prelims. But Anna Helwig takes the win in prelim number 2. And so the top 2 seeds tomorrow will be Anna Helwig of Villanova and Allie Fordyce of Georgetown. And wow, it looks like the second heat was much slower than heat number 1.
Much slower. Interesting. But you know what? That's because they had that heads up about what the first heat was doing.
Well, I'm having struggles over here.
But you'd
They
think
paid attention.
Yeah. But you'd think that would get some people thinking, oh, I need to pick this up if I want a chance. But I think, when you have someone like Helwig in that second heat, you're going to kind of judge yourself off of what she's doing.